Michael Vick is the one that really started this thing, in my opinion, as far as this whole RPO game that and Michael Vick is one of the best to ever do it. Now, due to the ability to create conflict for defenses and maximize offensive efficiency, the RPO really began to kind of take hold in the NFL, because that's what it did. It created a ton of conflict. So the RPO, it's a play in which the offensive line executes a run block, but the quarterback has the option to hand the ball off or throw a quick pass based on a read, the read option, of a specific defender. Typically, it's the linebacker or the safety that you're keying in on to figure out where this RPO is going to go. That's what Jayden Daniels is looking at. That's what Jalen Hurts is looking at. That's what Mahomes is even looking at times. So the key components of an RPO is this. You have a pre-snap read. The quarterback identifies the key defender. Who is it? He will also read after the snap. This is often, a linebacker lined up near the box or a safety that starts to creep down towards the line of the scrimmage. So which key defender is he keying in on? Is it the safety that's creeping? Is it the linebacker that's creeping down? Who is it? And then you have the post-read snap. So after the snap, the quarterback's eyes immediately go to that defender. Oftentimes you hear, 50 is the mic or whatever, right? Well, it's a little bit different in the RPO where the quarterback really isn't calling somebody out, and sometimes they do, but usually they're not calling somebody out because they want to identify that guy in secret. The quarterback just has that job to identify that one key defender, and then he has to make the decision. So it really doesn't help them to kind of call out who they're looking at, right? So after the snap, quarterback's eyes immediately go to the defender. Now, if this defender crashes down to defend the run, the quarterback kind of pulls the ball back and then throws a quick pass. It's either, to a receiver in space, or it could be a receiver behind, blockers. If the defender drops back into coverage, though, or hesitates, the quarterback usually hands the ball off for a run or follows through behind the running back with the ball in his hands, and he becomes the runner. Now, the blocking scheme, the offensive line will block as if it's running a run play, typically using a zone blocking scheme or a combination of a zone and a man isolation blocking scheme. And this helps sell the run and occupy the defensive line and the linebackers, because as we've seen in the past few weeks, I kept saying, man, Turner is just biting down on every pass pro, opportunity, or every opportunity that the offense can pull the ball back, fake the handoff. Turner was biting down, the defense was biting down, and we were getting lost on that defense and allowing everything to go to the outside. This is kind of the same situation. So during, this blocking scheme where they're trying to isolate or run a run play or mimic a run play, this really helps to kind of sell the run, and then you occupy the defense and the defensive line and the linebackers to kind of bite down. That's where teams get into trouble. Now, the passing concept side of this, RPOs often utilize very simple, high percentage passing concepts such as slants, hitches, bubbles, quick outs. These routes are designed to be thrown quickly, obviously accurately, maximize the chance of a completion, and then they utilize those players in space. So imagine, the Lions have kind of done this to a degree, right? We throw that quick hitch or that bubble, to the right or to the left, and I can't stand this play. It never works for us. It is a pick six ball. It's not something that it's not something that I feel Jared Goff does well. I don't think he's twitchy enough. That's about the only knock I got on the guy. I don't think he's twitchy enough to get some of those plays off, way out to the boundary. I think they need to be closer, to the end of the line, like, where the tight end is. You put a guy in motion and then you try to hit him quick in stride, not put a guy out in, trips right and you try to get a block and then put the guy behind, the receivers and get the quick hitch in. I don't like that play, but that's what they do in the RPO. Now, the question is this: how does the RPO attack a 4-3 defense like the Lions run? Well, the 4-3 defense typically has 2 deep safeties and 3 linebackers all the time. And it can be very vulnerable to RPOs if it's not played with discipline, which is a word that I've been using all season long. I'd much rather see the Detroit Lions play disciplined football than attacking football. And what I mean by that is your edge rushers can't be selling out. They need to contain. And if we can contain some players, the quarterback, you have a better opportunity at shutting down the RPO. They'll still get yards on you. They're still going to be able to do something, but you're going to limit a lot of these explosive plays. So how does the RPO exploit a 4-3 defense? Well, number one, you have to create conflict for the linebackers. That is a word that I'll use often, conflict for the linebackers. You want to conflict them in their judgment. So RPOs put the linebacker in a bind. Thank God Anzalone is back. If they aggressively attack the line of scrimmage, which we have seen the Lions do, and we've heard it from Aaron Glenn all year, he wants these guys to attack the line of scrimmage. I've heard him say it in multiple pressers this year that that's how he runs his defense, to attack, attack, attack. They're trying to attack, all of these different variables of running lanes because you can't fill them all. They're just trying to make their best educated guess on which one, the play is going to. So if they aggressively attack the line of scrimmage to stop the run, then they open up the passing lanes directly behind them. And if they drop back into coverage, well, then they concede the run. How many times have we seen where the Lions are just getting eaten alive over the middle of the field? That is because of our linebacker play. And that is what I've been saying all year, that we really needed to shore up. And the only way that you can really do that and still stop the run is dropping into a nickel coverage, which is exactly what I wanted them to do against the Vikings to a degree. But I would rather have seen almost a dime look and get really fast with 3 safeties and 3 corners, limit your linebackers to 2, and then you cover those zones, right there. And it worked. But not every time you can do that, right? Sometimes you have to have bigger matchups. And the other way that the RPO really attacks this 4-3 is by creating space. Now, you force the linebackers to hesitate or make a quick decision. RPOs can create space for receivers in the short to intermediate pass game. Again, where the Lions have given up quite a bit of yards and some yak is the intermediate. This is especially effective against the 4-3 defenses that really rely on their linebackers to cover a lot of ground. And I would say the Lions do that. I think that they've heavily relied, especially when Alex and the other guys were in there, Malcolm, they were covering all of that area, right? That entire zone, that intermediate zone, they are flying jack back and forth, sideline to sideline. And then our guys playing man or downfield. So you open up this giant hole. I don't think that Aaron Glenn's going to do that this weekend. I think that Aaron Glenn's going to do something a little different. So relying on linebackers to cover all this ground is kind of a problem, especially if you don't have savvy cover linebackers. And we really only have one, and that's Anzalone. We only have one that can really cover. Jack is getting there, but Jack, I don't think is a good coverage linebacker, and I'm sure everybody else would disagree with me, but when I watch his tape, I just feel like he's lacking a few things in coverage, but he's getting better, and I think he'll be better. Now, the last thing, you want to exploit matchups in the 4-3 defense. So RPOs can be designed to target specific matchups, such as the slot receiver against a linebacker, or the running back on a linebacker. So how many times have we seen in the past couple of weeks where these running backs are catching, 30, 40-yard bombs against the Bills downfield? So the Bills use an RPO system. And what the Bills did against us is exactly what we can't allow on Saturday night. It's exactly how they beat us. They beat us with matchups. They isolated a linebacker on the running back. And they're going to win that all the time because the running backs are extremely fast. As long as they can catch, well, you get them downfield, and then there's your completion. Same thing with tight ends. If you want to isolate a tight end on a linebacker, I would say that tight ends are probably going to win that matchup more often than not. But if you drop a safety down on the tight end, I think the safety is probably going to win that more often than not. So the next point is RPOs against different types of 4-3 schemes. So you have the base 3-4 or base 4-3, and in a base 4-3, which the Lions run, quite often, is the Mike linebacker is the key defender that's read by the quarterback. So that's either going to be Jack or Alex this weekend, depending on who's the Mike. So if the linebacker flows towards the run, then the quarterback throws. If he drops into coverage, the quarterback hands off. It's that simple. It is such a simple schematic adjustment for these quarterbacks to make a quick decision, but it's not as simple on the defensive side of the football because you're taught to crash. You're taught to be aggressive. You're taught to go after the ball. But if you don't watch the ball come out and you've already bit down and you can't drop back fast enough, that ball is, quick release for a good quarterback is up and out. And then you've got the nickel, which again is the defense that I'm expecting Aaron Glenn to use more often this weekend. So the nickel defense will replace a linebacker with an extra defensive back. Typically it's a corner. I think it's going to be a safety this weekend. I think that we're going to have Iffy, Branch, and Kirby on the field more often. Now, this can make the defense a little bit more susceptible to the run. as there is usually one less run defender in the box, being a linebacker. However, it does improve the coverage against the RPO passes. And I think that there's one thing that we know about our defense that is better than all else. When Brad Holmes brought in, the safeties and the corners that he did, if you go look at their box scores and you look at their ratings against the run, our DB room is one of the best rooms against the run. And that is held true now for about 3 seasons. Yep, they sucked in coverage for a period of time. They give up some yards, but you put them against the run, these guys shut it down. Amik Robertson, Brian Branch, some of the best against the run. So in my opinion, the nickel gives us a better opportunity against the RPO because our guys do so well against the run. I think that is an advantage to the Lions. Now the dime, which is the other scheme out of the 4-3, which is going to bring in typically 6 defensive backs. So the dime defense adds even more defensive backs to the field, which, again, it theoretically weakens the run defense, but it improves pass coverage. So from that scheme or schematic plan, you would think, okay, we're going to give up some run yards against either Jayden Daniels or their running backs. Now, against the dime, RPOs may lean towards the run option, but again, I'm going to revert back to the nickel. Our guys are really good against the run. So I'm less worried if we're in the dime or the nickel against the RPO. And then you have the blitz. I mean, this is AG's bread and butter. This is all he does is blitz. So blitzing is an extreme high risk against the RPO. High reward strategy if you're able to figure out what they're doing. But up against the RPO, you're blitzing, you're selling out. So if they're not handing the ball off, you're screwed. If he's not throwing the ball, you're screwed. Kind of screwed both ways, right? You've got to read it, and then you've got to react. But if you sell out and then someone just happens to come open in the middle of the field and Daniels hits him in stride, I mean, that could go to the house. Because then now you're dependent on, the 2 or 3 guys in the back there in the secondary to pick up that player that just became free out of the backfield. So if the blitz is picked up, it can leave the defense very vulnerable to quick passes in the vacated areas, finding guys in space, which is what Jayden Daniels is going to want to do. However, a very well-timed blitz, a blitz with patience, I know that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in my brain, can disrupt the timing of the RPO, and it can force a turnover pretty quickly. And that's why, to me, the turnovers are the most important factor in this game this weekend. They've been the most important factor all season, even against sacks. So how does sacks hurt you against an RPO? Well, if you're focusing on getting sacks, you're selling out. And if you're selling out and you're blitzing, you're going to get hurt, right? Jayden is going to take advantage of you. He is not a rookie. He's not playing like a rookie. Anyway, I should say that he is a rookie. He's not playing like a rookie. Going after and selling out the edge rushers is going to hurt us. And that's why I think, again, this is going to be a smart defensive plan of containment, patience, hold your zones, let Jayden make a mistake, make him be the rookie that he is and make a mistake. Now, lastly, not lastly, I got a little bit more. Defending against the RPO. So defending against the RPO, it requires a big discipline and communication from all 11 defenders. They have to be in a one-track mind. So here's some strategies. Key defender discipline. The key defender must be disciplined in their read and avoid overreacting, if you will, to the run or to the pass. They can't show their hand, right? Good poker face. That's what they have to have this weekend. They need to maintain their assignment. Again, smart, disciplined football. Force the quarterback to make a tough decision, which I just said a minute ago is a mistake. Linebacker play. Thank God, again, Anzalone is back. Linebackers need to be able to react quickly to what's happening on the field, diagnose the play, read accordingly, react accordingly, and then they need to be able to defend the run and the pass. Alex is going to be fine. I think Jack is going to be fine. If they only have those 2 guys on the field the majority of the time this weekend, I think we're okay. Secondary coverage. I think that the defensive backs need to be alert, obviously, for the quick passes. They have to be ready to make tackles in space. They have to be able to drop down and make the tackle in the run game. They also need to communicate effectively to avoid congestion and coverage bust. If they're congested, well, that turns into a natural pick play and someone's going to get open. If there's a coverage bust, well, I think you already know the answer. It's going to the house. Varying coverages, though. How can varying or mixing up your coverages help? Well, if you mix it up and you confuse the quarterback on what's coming next, I don't think I need to further explain that. You disguise what you're doing out of the 4-3 base, but really you're inside of a nickel formation that you've got a little bit of man, you got a little bit of zone called, and Jayden's got to have to figure it out. But on every play, you've got to do something different. On every play, you know, that key defender needs to be somebody different that he doesn't know is coming. So if let's say that Jayden points out, let's just say he does this. Let's say he points out the key defender and he points at Branch. And Branch is down, let's say, on the left side. So you're right if you're behind the offensive line. Well, at that point, if he's in, which I would assume he is, well, now Iffy needs to become the key defender. So that has to just be a natural selection and idea with these guys to say, hey, look, he just pointed at me, Iffy, it's your time. Right? And so Jayden's not going to see this coming. That's how you have to defend it. Disguise the blitzes. That's probably the most important thing. Don't show your hand. Just do it. Understanding, you know, the intricacies to an RPO and how to attack it from all these different defensive schemes. I mean, that is the challenge, right? If all of these coaches, if everybody in the NFL had this stuff figured out, everything that I just told you is fact, right? I mean, that's how you do it, but it can't get done most of the time because it is extremely difficult to defend. So how do the Lions fare?
You can do it!
Mobile quarterbacks is what we're going to talk about next.